Hey guys, what's going on? It's Data Strain. I've got a really cool video for you today, and it's going to be talking about these two beauties and how perfect they are for each other. It is the Elektron Digitakt and the Novation circuit. Now, I was in the market for a synth, and I had been trying to be more responsible with my money and my purchases lately, not just going off of how my gas is making me feel, but instead trying to think of what is like the smartest buy for the money with certain things, right? So the Digitakt was like my first favorite one, and it was because it gave me a lot of possibilities that absolutely did not need a computer whatsoever, and I can just plug it and play it in pretty much wherever I wanted. And then I heard about the circuit. Now, I had known about it for a little bit, but when I first heard about it, I knew that it didn't have a whole lot when it came to customization and the things you could do with it. It was basically just a groove box with built-in sounds and synths that you couldn't change. So that was a cool little idea book, but I wanted more. Coming back to it, probably like 2 years later, now it has a lot more capabilities, which make it one of the best things that you could buy in that price range, in my opinion. But this is going to be a very short and sweet video. I'm just going to show you how to set these two up together. I will make a longer video in depth of why I like this combo. But just for the money, for under $1,500 to have this kind of sequencing, the sequencing abilities of both are great, but to have this kind of sequencing and to essentially have a 12 voice synth, you know what I mean? It's magical. So basically, in order to set these two up together, you just have to have, MIDI cables, really only one MIDI cable, technically. And a sound source for each. With the circuit, the MIDI channels are fixed, so you cannot change them. But with the Digitakt, you can, so there is a slight workaround to get this working. So the circuit, the MIDI channels for synth 1, 2, and the drums are just one. MIDI channel 1 for synth 1, MIDI channel 2 for synth 2, and then all the drums are on MIDI channel 10. So how are we gonna set this up with the Digitakt? It's relatively simple and easy, but I'm gonna try to be as slow as I can about it. So you open up your project. You can start with a fresh one or whatever. I have a preloaded one here, and you're just gonna hit the gear icon to get to the settings. Go down to MIDI config for sync. For the Digitakt, uncheck clock receive, but keep clock send on. For me, I'm using this as the main clock, and the reason being is because the sequencer on the circuit quantizes to 16th notes, which I do not like. I don't really make dance music. I make more hip-hop oriented stuff, and I know a lot of hip-hop is quantized, but the stuff that I make isn't. I'm more a fan of like Jay Dilla, Flying Lotus, Pete Rock, other guys like Knowledge, Anderson .Paak, people who have a lot of those loose grooves to their music, and I really, really like that. So having something with, a more high resolution sequencer grid is preferred for me, but you can run it the other way if you'd like. But for this example, this is how I have my settings. So program change and receive, we're not going to cover that today, so it doesn't really matter if you have this checked or unchecked. Port configuration, I have everything here set to just MIDI because I'm not using my computer for anything except to record the audio of the session that I'm doing now. So import, output, or output, through port, all of it just to regular old MIDI. Output channel I have set to the auto channel. Parameter output CC. Encoder destination, trig key destination, and mute destination I have set to internal. Don't really know why, they were just already like that. Didn't want to mess with it. Make sure receives notes is checked, and receives CC and RPN is checked. We're not going to get into that today either, only because I'm still figuring out how these two really work together, but just letting you know how I have it set for right now. And the last step is go to channels. So as I told you before, the synth 1 is channel 1, synth 2 is channel 2, and the drums are on 10. So that means we have to move around the channels in the Digitakt to still use our 8 audio tracks appropriately, without essentially layering sounds together. So what I did is I basically bumped up all of these 8 audio tracks up 2 channels. So track 1, instead of being channel 1, is channel 3, track 2 is 4, 3 is 5, 4 is 6, etc., etc. And then when you get to track 8, that would have made it track 10, which is the drum track. I didn't want that, so I just bumped that to 11. Then you're going to get to the actual MIDI channels themselves. With this example, we're just going to be using the first 3 and possibly even the 4th for just some more side chaining stuff, which I'll show you. And then for tracks A, B, and C, I have it set to channel 14, which is the auto channel, which is what is going to be sending and receiving output data from the Digitakt in this setup, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not great with MIDI stuff yet, trying to learn, so bear with me. So that should be it. Track D I have for 16, and that's just for like session control here, but I really didn't get much out of that, so you don't have to worry about that. And the rest of the MIDI tracks we're not really going to be using. And yeah, so I have auto channel to 14, FX control channel is 9. We're not really going to be using that either. And everything else should be set to auto. So program change, in and out should be set to auto. That should have you set up for this. Now, one thing you might notice is that while you're sequencing these together, that when you're sequencing for the Digitakt, occasionally, if you're recording any automation or any notes or just kind of playing around, you may notice that the circuit will also record sequences and they'll overlap. So things might not sound right. You're not actually recording it incorrectly. It's just kind of recording twice at the same time. So what I did is I hit the mixer icon here and I muted all of the channels from here, because even though they're muted, the output is still going to play when triggered by the Digitakt. And then you can affect the volume for each synth right here with 1-3 knobs, or the 1 and 3 knobs. The drum tracks I have, not only do I have the channels muted, but I have all of these knobs turned down. And the reason being is because I'm not using them for this example for any external samples or anything or drums. I'm only using it to sidechain the synths that are being triggered from the Digitakt. So you can just mute all those. If you want to use them for other samples, you can, but it will be, whatever you sidechain will be affected by that triggering, so just keep that in mind. So first things first, I'm going to show you a small snippet of the beat that I made using the two together. It's not really great because I'm still trying to learn the ins and outs of this, but it's very cool and very flexible with how you can kind of move back and forth and how much control you can actually program in to the Digitakt to control the circuit. So here's the beat really quick. So yeah, so that's the beat right there. Now, if you noticed, when I unmuted tracks 11 and 12, the side chaining started to kick in, and that's because I have these muted drum tracks here being triggered by channels 11 and 12, or by tracks 11 and 12 over here. That's how I'm getting that ducking. So if we were to, I can actually probably just mute everything here, so you can hear the synth there. On the circuit itself, I have them sidechained pretty hard. Now right here, the trick to this, to really making it work to be triggered by what you're playing on the Digitakt, is you're going to, I'll show you how to set up each one first, then we'll get into that. So go ahead and click track 9, and how you want to set this up is go to source. It's going to show up as a bunch of empty boxes like that. You hit function and then press the top encoder and then select the channel that you want to affect. So track 1 is going to be, or track 9 is going to be MIDI channel 1 controlling synth 1. And then you go to track 2, MIDI channel 2. Track 11 is going to be 10 for the drums. And I also have 12 set to 10 for the drums, because 1 is essentially acting as a side chain for the snare, which is this one, and this one's acting as the side chain for the kick. Now, in order for the side chain to follow the appropriate pattern, you need to actually copy and paste your kick and your snare pattern into those channels, which is very simple. So you're just gonna, select the track, or the track. You can hit the recording button, and then you can just hit function, copy, and then you don't even have to exit out of this. You can just hold track and then go to like track 11, and then again function and then paste. Now it's going to have the same exact pattern as your kick, and you can do this again. So go to track 3 where I have my snare. Yours might be on 2 or 4 or wherever, and then again just copy, go to the track 12, and then paste. Now when all this gets triggered, whatever the synth is doing is going to react to those triggers as if it's reacting to these drum tracks here, just like your standard sidechain compression. So altogether with those aspects, that's basically the setup. That gives you a good amount of control from here, and that's something that I really like. And these actually do complement each other very well. They really take care of each other's pros and cons, each other's strengths and weaknesses, such as this is not polyphonic. Like, you can't play any of these tracks polyphonically. It's all 8 mono tracks here, whereas this has 2 poly synths. So you can get a lot more playability and a lot more polyphony out of it, and it just sounds a lot more vast. Typically what I do is I use my Digitakt for the drums and the actual bass of it, and maybe a couple samples here and there, and then the actual synth and the leads are coming from the circuit. So it's a very fun setup, but it's very small. It takes a very small profile, and the circuit can actually run on batteries, and it has a built-in speaker on the back. So let's say if you're working on something here, you can make some small tracks and then maybe save the session and then go work on something else. It's something that you can keep with you pretty much anywhere and work on some really cool music. And one cool thing that I noticed about this, a downfall to the circuit, is that when you have all these different sessions set up, all of them, when you switch between them, are going to be at the same tempo, and if you want to switch it, you have to tap tempo it in order to make that happen. But with the Digitakt, every pattern that you come up with can actually have a different tempo to it, and with the way that we have it set up in MIDI, the circuit is just going to sync to whatever the Digitakt is doing. So a good example would be, I think I actually did it earlier on one of these, is we can play this and then we can go to a different session. But first I'm actually just gonna save this session. And then we can go to a different session, and then we can actually have it affect the not time signature, but the BPM of it, and make it go faster or slower. So let's see if I set that up or not. So that's a really cool way to, like, even if you just wanted to use this to help you switch tempos for sessions with the circuit, that's possible. So as you can see, there's many possibilities with this. I'm not going to be able to cover them all today. That's actually pretty much basically the video that I have for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned a lot. I can't wait to see what you guys do with this, because more than likely, if you've got a Digitakt, you've already got a circuit. And if not, for the money, you really can't beat this. Just as a synthesizer by itself, it's an amazing value, because you get the isotonic editor and circuit components, which really lets you customize this to be whatever you want it to be, which is very, it's important in today's music scene. We all need our own way of working these days. We all have our own workflows, our own preferences, so we can't be tied down to something that's just kind of stuck in the box anymore, which this no longer is. 5 minutes on the computer and you can have a whole completely different sound set than you had before you plugged it into the computer. And that's really cool. And you could even use these synths in here to sample out of into the Digitakt to give yourself samples. So it's a very cheap way to have a lot of flexibility with your synth sounds and everything, and constantly keep developing and get even more life out of gear that already has tons of life. If you wanted to set this up with an external keyboard, that's totally possible. I do recommend the Launchpad Pro, and the reason being is because it shares the same scale mode scale modes as the circuit does. So it's very easy to translate. You don't have to like try to figure out where you are or anything. If not, a key step or something will do just fine for you, or whatever controller you really prefer to play with. But yeah, so this is quite a powerful combo. I would recommend honestly all of it to anybody. For under $1,500 to get all of this in one, that's incredible. That is incredible to me, because you get, you know, even with these tracks here, you get 4 voice polyphony with this, but then you can still have technically 2 more voices that you can use over here that won't even interfere with it. So you can add a little bit more leads or like some high end like twinkles and stuff. Either way, like, this is awesome. Very complimentary pair. And before I get into a whole other tangent, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have any more questions or concerns or anything, you know, feel free to contact me down below in the comments. If I happen to mess anything up, or if you know of any cool features that I didn't bring up in this video, again, feel free to leave comments down below and let everyone else know how great these two work together. And I will catch you guys next time. I don't really know when I'm gonna have another video. I'm gonna try to shoot for a couple more this week if I can, but you know, things just kind of happen. And we'll just see how it goes. So thank you guys for watching. Take care, have fun creating, and I'll catch you later.